Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. Now, you're probably wondering, why should I watch over here instead of any of the other channels? And that's because over there, they don't care about what you have to say. They say this all the time. They talk down to us. They think we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter. But I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about. So I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. So without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of The Herd with Colin Cowherd talking about Christian McCaffrey, which is really interesting because I think with the buzz of the 49ers, especially with Brock Purdy, because Brock Purdy's story is so great and interesting and fascinating, and for whatever reason has become very divisive, right? You're either a Brock Purdy truther or a Brock Purdy, enemy, apologist. And because of that, Christian McCaffrey's amazingness and elite and his elite stature in the NFL has really kind of gone under discussed, right? I mean, people have talked about Purdy and the 49ers way more than Christian McCaffrey when it really comes down to it. He has had such a great run with the 49ers and has been such a game changer with the 49ers, and it even started with Garoppolo, that acquisition of the 49ers just can't be understated. So I'm really curious to see what Colin has to say with regards to that.
So I see Christian McCaffrey will be, in my opinion, the second best player in the Super Bowl. Mahomes the first.
I agree.
And running backs still matter a lot, especially to the top coaches. Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Mike Vrabel. A lot of the best coaches in the league use running backs and love running backs, have traded for running backs. And there was this moment during the season. J-Mac and I talked about this a lot. I thought that the NFL media, there was a lot of pandering. Oh, I can't believe the running backs aren't getting paid. This is really outrageous. Guards have never been paid. Safeties don't get paid. Tight ends have been undervalued and underpaid my entire life. But there was something about the running back position really worked up the media. So it's interesting to go back. Google it. Go back to the reaction when the Niners, needing a running back, gave up a late second, a late third, a late fourth, and a late fifth for Christian McCaffrey, easily the best back top to bottom in the league. At least 50% of the reaction from the media is, whoa, that is way too much.
Well, they may have said that was way too much, but people were freaking out that Christian McCaffrey went to the 49ers, and they were like, oh my God, this is like not even fair. The whole thing was like he did this to be able to beat the Rams, and now McVay is pissed. I remember Colin specifically talking about that, how McVay is like gutted that they got Christian McCaffrey. So if you want to say they gave too much, I don't really remember exactly those arguments necessarily, but the only argument would be is that you're giving a lot, and McCaffrey did have an injury history, and he was playing with the Panthers, and it was like he had such an interesting thing where he's obviously elite and amazing, and Madden and all of that type of stuff, but you never really got to see him truly thrive. And again, he was getting banged up. So I could see those arguments of like, you're giving all of this away for Christian McCaffrey. Do you even know what you're going to get out of him? But the smart people in the NFL, the Sean McVays, and again, even Colin, who I consider smart, and he pointed this out as well. Remember when this happened, he was just like, they did this specifically because they need to get past McVay. And also just to keep him away from McVay. Because if McVay has Christian McCaffrey, I mean, your team is going to be better with Christian McCaffrey. But any team that has Christian McCaffrey is going to be better, especially any competing team, playoff competing team. Whether it's the Packers, whether it was the Cowboys. The Cowboys would love Christian McCaffrey. The Eagles love Christian McCaffrey. The Rams, obviously. The only team maybe not is the Detroit Lions because they already have their young, crazy running backs. But I would argue that Christian McCaffrey would still be great there. Because then you would have this, three-headed monster, and it would be like, oh my God, what the heck do you do with that? The run game would just be so fresh. And obviously the Chiefs as well. So I think the running back has always been an important position. It's not so much that the running back position is necessarily emphasized. I mean, to a degree it is, because passing is obviously so important. But I think the conversation is more that you can get a lot out of a running back and not have to draft them top 10 or pay them a ton of money, because a running back, right? Like, put it this way, and I don't want to, these letters might not work exactly the way I wanted to, but essentially an A quarterback, right? An A quarterback and an A wide receiver can really take you to the moon. More specifically, a quarterback, right? Can really take you there. If you have an A quarterback, they can really take you far. And if your team is healthy and complete and you have good coaching, you have a great chance at winning. And of course, every quarterback loves to have an elite receiver, or a tight end for that matter, just someone that can literally run and catch the ball. And a B quarterback, now, you take a huge step back. You just do. A B quarterback, right? The difference between Patrick Mahomes and, say, Kirk Cousins, or even a Dak Prescott, or I'm trying to think of someone maybe even more average than those quarterbacks, a Baker Mayfield, it's night and day. Absolutely night and day. The things that your call sheet, your play, the plays that you're calling, just cut them in half. You just take half of them out of there. It's just a completely different game start to finish. The defense has to play differently. The offense has to play differently. The coaches have to call it. The opposing team plays you differently. Like, everything changes. Everything changes. You're not afraid of Baker Mayfield to have the ball with the last minute 30 left. You are deathly afraid to have Patrick Mahomes with the ball with a minute 30 left. So that's the difference. Take that with a running back now. The difference between an A running back and a B running back is you get still a lot. Again, there's no doubt that an A running back like a Christian McCaffrey is amazing and elite and can really help your team out. But there's a lot of teams that don't have Christian McCaffreys that were still able to establish great run games and didn't have to pay all that money. So that's really been the argument. And I'm come from the camp where I'd rather pay for the Christian McCaffrey, especially if you're young and I know that you're going to be healthy and you don't have maybe like some crazy injury risk. But again, you look at a Saquon Barkley, he can't stay healthy, unfortunately. And I love Saquon Barkley. I feel like we're being robbed of his greatness, not only because he's playing with the Giants, but then also because, unfortunately, he's been getting injured. And that's the problem. That is the problem, because in good conscience, can you really say, okay, I'm going to do all those trades for Saquon right now? You can't. Not to mention, Zeke was feasting, feed me, all that, big belly and all this. And then, like that, he became nothing. Seriously, I mean, it was overnight. It was in a blink of the eye. It was like, ooh, Zeke's not really that fast and powerful anymore. And it was like, oh, Tony Pollard's better than him? Like, okay, and that's what happens with running backs. And it sucks, but that's just the reality of it.
Is it? Are running backs worth a fortune? Or are they not worth a second and third late round pick? Fourth and fifth round picks in the NFL on a Niners stack roster don't start and may not make the team. So you were really giving up 2 semi-premium picks for Christian McCaffrey. Again, the Niners roster, there's not a lot of room for late fourth and late fifth rounders to even make the team. So which is it, media? And this is where I think the media got lost in all this drama, is that running backs, depending on the situation and the team, have tremendous value. When I watched people rip the Detroit Lions drafting Jahmyr Gibbs, I understand the sense is that's a first-round running back. But, sorry here. There we go. Breakfast. Jahmyr Gibbs had a great O-line in Detroit, guaranteeing he'd be good. A quarterback in Goff that's excellent and better in play action, and a clever play caller. There was virtually no chance for Jahmyr Gibbs not to work in Detroit. Great O-line, top rated in the league. Veteran quarterback who with a little running game has gotten to Super Bowls. And a clever offensive coach. And by the way, a coach in Dan Campbell that likes to run the ball. Of course it hit. He added production and value. Christian McCaffrey when he went to the Niners. Brilliant coach whose dad loved to run the football, whose son Kyle loves to run the football. A very, very good offense, but so-so at quarterback. All quarterbacks are elevated by star backs. And the other 2 offensive stars, Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, were injury prone. So you needed another star. People freaked out. Whoa, second, third, fourth, fifth. Which is it? Are they valuable?
I don't know if people completely freaked out. They were freaked out because they're like, I can't believe the 49ers got Christian McCaffrey. That is the more freak out that I remember. If you remember the opposite, please let me know in the comments below. The last thing that I'll say with regards to this, though, is that the best thing also that running backs have going for them, and I've said this many times now, but the running game just travels so much better. And when games get tight and tense and the fans are going crazy or the fans are getting anxious because you're losing in your home or whatever, however way you want to look at it, being able to hand the ball off to a Christian McCaffrey or do a short dump off pass or a 1-2 yard pass and be like, here, go make magic happen is a lot easier than completing even like an 8-yard pass. I mean, just look at the fourth downs that the Detroit Lions weren't able to hold on to. Because, if the pass wasn't perfect or even if it was still a great pass, the moment, the intensity, it's just so much harder. It's just so much harder than, just handing it off to a Christian McCaffrey or a short little pass. And so in those moments, being able to rely on those big backs really, really can take you far. And so that's why I'm really interested to see what Christian McCaffrey does in the Super Bowl and how he's utilized. Because when you have a Christian McCaffrey, because I think this is also the other thing, and this will be my last point, is that when you have a back like a Christian McCaffrey, you are not abandoning the run game for that. Because not only do you know what you pay for him and what you gave up for him, is like, he is that dude. So no matter where you're at in the game, you don't abandon it. When you don't have this big elite A+ type, running back, you see teams abandon the run game a lot, whether the game's getting close or tight or whether they're down a lot and they're like, well, we're down, we have to throw the ball. But the 49ers, even when they were down big to Detroit, they were still feeding McCaffrey the ball. And it matters. It really, really matters. So I think that also it keeps you kind of honest. You don't just abandon giving the ball to McCaffrey, because you're just like, no, like he's part of the legit game plan. But if you have one of these other running backs who still does really great, right? Has, averages maybe 80, 90 yards and has ripped off a few 150-yard games. You saw this with the Eagles with Swift, and stuff like that. Like, had some really great big games, but isn't this big face of the lead of the running backs, and so it was very easy for them just to like essentially not give him the ball anymore. If Christian McCaffrey was a running back, you're not giving him the ball. So I think it also keeps the play calling more honest and makes the game a little bit more balanced. And Patrick Mahomes has won a lot of games handing the ball off, and not being the main center of just throwing the ball 40 times. He's won a lot of big games in Super Bowls and barely even throwing 20 times a game. And then on the flip side, you have other quarterbacks that want to be Patrick Mahomes and want to win, throwing 40 plus, and they don't win. So obviously running is important, and obviously the big elite coaches know it's important. So I'm really excited to see Christian McCaffrey because if memory serves me correctly, I can't remember as big of a running back as Christian McCaffrey in the Super Bowl recently. I'm sure you'll probably throw out some names, but I really think Christian McCaffrey has to be at the top of the list for the last 5 years or so, especially because when the Rams had their one running back, I gotta forget the guy's name, but his knees, I think, were already shot, if memory serves me correctly, unfortunately. I just really can't think of it. Marshawn Lynch, maybe, but that at this point, that was many years ago. But what do you all think? Do you think, Christian McCaffrey at the end of the day was worth all those trades? Do you think running backs should be getting paid more money? Do you think they should be drafted at the top? Not necessarily these late first rounds or second, third round picks. Would love to hear your thoughts on this one. Please let me know in the comments below. Please don't forget to subscribe, and please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really helps with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.